It seems like Jen's bachelorette party was more about Ty and Julie than it was actually about Jen. And it led me to the question of what does a good apology look like? So, hey, my name is Shawna A. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I help innovative service driven clinicians expand their private practices beyond the couch through marketing visibility and increasing their referral pathways. And from time to time, when I'm not in private practice or consulting, I like to give commentary on the Shawnaverse. Today, I'm going to be sharing more on Jen's bachelorette party. At the time of this recording, we are actually into a couple of episodes of the countdown to Jen's wedding. So we know that the wedding is coming up soon. And I wanted to be able to talk more about this so that I have a full, clear pathway to talk about Jen's wedding when it comes out. Now, in Bachelorette, it's kind of juxtaposition against Ty and Julie. And the episode actually ends with Ty and Julie having a conversation about what may have went wrong in their relationship. It also starts with Ty and Julie. So we're going to pull the segment out that pertain Jen's bachelorette party. We'll talk about that first, and then I'm going to wrap up the video and talk about Ty Julie's situation that they have going on right now. First of all, I enjoyed this episode. I think it was a bit of foreshadowing because there wasn't drama happening in this episode. It was very, very sweet. I really enjoyed the bachelorette party that Shawna put on for Jen, and I loved hearing more background about Shawna's wedding. I loved hearing background about Alicia's wedding, and I really loved the interactions that were happening in there. I think that Shawna does a really good job of giving us foreshadowing and tying other episodes together. So, for instance, if you've already seen portions of the countdown, Jen says that she used honesty as a weapon. And I think that us seeing Jen in a bachelorette party where we don't have new characters or outside friends because maybe Jen doesn't have a lot of friends due to her honesty as a weapon, she was really using that as a defense mechanism, and her really formulating and creating new community and supports via way of Shawna. The exception is Sam. We know that Jen met Sam independently, and we also know that Shawna really doesn't have a relationship with Sam, even though Sam was at Bunko. I also like that we have mentions of Julie, even though she's not here at the bachelorette party, and we see Ty trying to shut down the conversation. He doesn't really want to talk about marriage. He doesn't really want to talk about Julie. And we also see both Alicia and Shawna and a little bit of Teeny hold the candle to Ty to get him to really address what he has done in his relationship and what he needs to do next if he wants it to work. I also think that we saw Shawna come to Ty as a friend despite her not really enjoying Julie because Julie has not been that welcoming or warm to her at all. I wonder what would happen though if Shawna really understood or had the full picture of why Julie may have been acting that way. Shawna still does not have the full information about Ty, enough for her to recognize that Ty wasn't truthful or wasn't honest, and the fact that he was telling Shawna and Julie two different things. She may never know, but I think this was another part of the episode that we saw that I thought was really interesting in the fact that Shawna indicated that she doesn't like enemies. Even if a lot of that were to come out or any of that were to come out, we might not see much of a reaction from Shawna anyway because she doesn't like the idea of what it feels like to have an enemy. I think this was a really good tie-in as well because we also have a better understanding of where Shawna's people pleasing is coming from. She doesn't like the idea of having people who don't like her, or if you have an enemy, that person really, really, really doesn't like you. So at times she goes out of her way to make people like her. She has said this before. She said this to Ty in the park, and she was going to go out of her way to make Julie like her. And we see where that ended her up. I think the thing about it is when you're a people pleaser, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And when you feel the effects of when it doesn't work, you feel it pretty hard. But in this case, in the bachelorette party with Jen, her ability to not have an enemy out of Jen kept the door open in order for her to formulate a relationship with Jen. And the thing about Shawna is that she's also seemingly highly observant. This is the second party that Shawna has planned for Jen. And this is the first time that she was able to plan this party without anybody telling her what to do. Remember, she didn't even really tell the other girls what they were going to be doing for real because she said, you wouldn't have approved, and this is not about you. And obviously, Jen loved it. The last time Shawna planned something for Jen was the baby shower, and she had to include Barb in that. And again, this is another one of those ways where she didn't want to have enemies with Barb, and she knew that this was something that was going to be important. So she invited Barb in to help her plan, and we all know how that particular party went. It just goes to show the kind of friend that Shawna is. It also goes to show the two different sides of what people pleasing can look like for people. Is Shawna exhausted? That said, we do see Shawna confront Ty later on, and we will get to that in a moment. I thought that the chicken wedding was super cute. Jen ate it up. She didn't want to go as far as harvesting crops, but she loved the two chickens getting married, which is super sweet. I loved hearing more about Shawna's best friend's wedding, and I love the portion where we're just getting so many truths about the different characters, right? So we hear the portion where Shawna was like, don't worry, I'm not going to post for the world to see that you occasionally engage in traditional rituals and ceremonies, as well as we saw a little bit more about Alicia's wedding. And Alicia did give a couple of digs here. When she's talking about her wedding to Bob, Ty says something around the fact that it sounds pretty boring, and she said, oh, Bob is under no false pretenses about his shortcomings. Then later on, when she catches Ty in the graveyard trying to make a phone call, she says, oh, now you want to communicate. And we have seen Alicia call Ty out before. Right after Max's birthday party, she calls him a flake. So people didn't like how this seems so harsh. And I think one thing to remember is the fact that Ty and Alicia grew up very close. They grew up almost as siblings, and they did have a little bit of a sibling banter happening too. I think this is why Alicia felt like she could be so upfront with him and call him out when it came to his relationship with Julie. And we also have to recognize that Julie is Alicia's friend. And I think something that was really cool is that we see that both Sam and Alicia are able to talk about Julie in a way that doesn't put her down, but acknowledges exactly who she is. I also think that Teeny and Julie are almost the same person, except Teeny likes Shawna and Julie does not. But Teeny to Shawna is the same as Julie to Alicia and to Sam. And so they are able to function in two different places. And so I think Alicia has the purview that Julie made lots of sacrifices when it came to their relationship, and that Ty owed it to Julie to communicate what it was that he was trying to do. I thought the Bachelorette portion was super cute. And I also really appreciate Shawna for bringing it back around as towards why Jen kept saying, nice to meet you to Mo, as if she had not met her before. Sam brought Mo over to the Christmas party that Jen and Greg had, and then Sam brought Mo to Chicky's birthday party. So Jen had definitely met Mo before, but I love how Sam was like, this is typical for the PTSD crowd. I thought that was a really fun way to tie it. Jen may have a little bit of brain fog about actually getting to meet Mo, but I also thought it was cool because maybe she doesn't remember that she has met Mo because she hasn't been able to have like the same sit down conversations or the same level of conversations with Mo that John has been able to have with Mo. I think it would be really interesting if Sam and Mo came to the wedding and John somehow ends up at the wedding and then he's like, what are you doing here? I kind of of hope that's what we are in for, but I guess we'll find out as more wedding festivity stuff comes up. Now, I'm gonna check my notes and make sure I've covered everything when it comes to the bachelorette party, because in a moment I'm gonna switch gears. Let's see. That's time. We've got yep, and meeting Shawna, no enemies, Alicia and her remarks. Teeny and the pictures were about people not knowing that she gave into a tradition. Got that. Shawna eventually saying, oh, okay. Now we're gonna put that in the time. Okay, so boom. Now I'm ready. Now the first part of the bachelorette party actually starts off with Ty asking Julie if she wanted to go to couples counseling. At the time when he asked her that, he did not have the same insight about being able to begin to acknowledge where he went wrong in all of this. So when he brought up couples counseling, it felt quite manipulative, and it was, because when Julie said no, yes, she made a criticism and she called him a liar, and he immediately responded with, okay, well, I'm going to leave you here with the kids and go to this party that he had not told her about at all. I questioned before, what would have happened if she said yes? Would he have not gone to the party? And if the answer to that was no, he wouldn't have gone to the party, he would have stayed home, then the result of that is manipulation. And yes, I recognize that Julie works every day of the week, with the exception of whatever day it is, Saturday, with the exception of one day. And I also recognize that Ty is a stay-at-home parent, but it doesn't change the fact that he did not give her an opportunity to have a plan about this, to be prepared for this, any of that. Now, there were people who were saying that they really hoped Julie failed, but we know later in the episode she didn't, because she does take care of her children. And I have said that Julie doesn't give to me absent parent. She just has a different idea of raising her children than what Ty has an idea of, which is something that needs to be communicated. And Ty did acknowledge in the episode that he did not communicate that, and that created a betrayal, which is something that I said when I did the commentary for Ty and Julie's relationship. When it comes to this episode, the way that I look at this is that there is what Ty says, there's what Julie says, and then there is the marriage in itself. A lot of people are like, Team Ty, Team Julie. I think they should do this. I think they should do that. Whatever is chosen in a couple, it's not about team this person, team that person. It's about the marriage in itself. I often say as well is that when you have a marriage, you need both people to show up as whole. And I think the thing that was revealed is that neither Ty or Julie are whole. They have some things to work out. Now, we know at the bachelorette party, Alicia had her things to say, but then we also see Shawna confront Ty as well. Shawna did mention exactly what I mentioned in the episode with Ty and Julie, is the fact that Ty did commit a betrayal. When Ty did not communicate to Julie what the plan was or what his desire was, he just, that in that moment, he committed a betrayal. And she says, you broke her trust, and now you have to be honest and listen and make up for it. If you didn't tell her about the change, then she might feel duped. And we know that Julie feels duped because she says specifically to Ty, you baby trapped me. Then Ty asks a really big question here. Why am I not enough for her? Now, I think this was like a really interesting thing that he asks here. Clearly, he doesn't feel like enough. And I think that part of this is misconstrued with what Julie wants. We had a plan. The plan was for you to write and for me to become a lawyer. And you broke that plan. Because you broke that plan, now she's frustrated. And that is the part where he's like, well, why isn't just what we have here right now enough? Why do we have to go through the plan? But it doesn't take into consideration the trust and the hurt that was created once you broke that plan without communicating it. Shawna even got Teeny to say, you need to follow through. So he recognizes that it was silly of him to leave in the way that he did, and that he probably should have stayed and attempted to have this conversation instead of running off when he didn't get his way. However, he starts off the conversation with asking Julie, when did it start to feel like I betrayed you? She wasn't able to answer that. And then he says, maybe we don't have the best communication, which I think is appropriate. They clearly don't don't seem to have the best communication. And this is not a Julie thing alone or a Ty thing alone. This is both of them. It's very cyclical. For instance, when Ty didn't communicate a change, but Julie was picking up on the change and she felt really overwhelmed by it, but she was doing all of these things to keep that change from really happening and becoming really frustrated and resentful for it. Ty watches her frustration and her resentment and assumes that what he's doing right now is not enough. But there's no communication there for her to answer that. There's no communication for him to really be able to get down to the bottom of this and address this and replan what's going on next. And then we have the part where Ty begins to say, maybe it's my fault. I always say it's going to work out, but I don't have a plan. And you have to be the one to make that plan. From there, he says, and then you get resentful, but you don't say anything. This talks more about the cycle that they are in and why this lies on the both of them. When Ty changes the plan and says, it's okay, just go with the flow, it's all right, Julie, in the back of her mind, knows a plan has to be made. And she may also feel panic and somewhat dismissed because this is not the first time that the plan has changed and that she has to shift. And she also recognizes in shifting and sacrificing, it puts her goal and her desires further away, and she has to do so much more in order to get there. But Ty says it's okay, just go with the flow. But he's not the one who's making the plan. And then on the other side, Ty recognizes that Julie becomes resentful in all of this. He recognizes that she seems frustrated. Maybe there's a lot of tension. She's not one to talk about her feelings with Ty, but she is definitely displaying some kind of anger or frustration. She's just not saying it out loud. And therefore, Ty doesn't address it. Perhaps he's afraid of what Julie may say. And we see that when Julie actually does say something, it comes out pretty harsh and intense, almost like how Jen stated that she uses honesty as a weapon. The thing about Julie is that she seems to be someone who is a deep thinker. And I also think that Ty is doing a lot of thinking as well, but they arrive at their own conclusions and they don't share it with one another. So Julie might be frustrated with what's happening and she's thinking it through, and she arrives to the conclusions that she's being sabotaged or baby trapped or she's bankrolling Ty's existence, and that is very frustrating and resentful for her. But then on the other end, Ty feels like he's making their lives so much easier. He's doing all of these things that are important for the both of us, and that Julie is being ungrateful and perhaps immature because they have everything that they could desire. Both of them have their own reality about what is happening, and right now it's not meeting up in the middle. So they both get into this thought process, and they are both using this thought process to prevent them from communicating with one another. Ty goes on to say, I don't think we made it easy for each other, to be honest. I think maybe we need to be brave. So by Ty saying the next part that he didn't want to write, and he's known that he didn't want to write since Cooper was born, was his way of being brave and facing whatever Julie might think and feel at this point in time. But Julie didn't really give us much. She was still deep in her thought. Then Ty says the part, when Cooper came along, I thought that if I did everything at home, then you could achieve your goals. I thought that if everything was good at home and that everything was good with work, that would be good enough. And then he notes it was deceptive because it wasn't what we talked about it. And now this is the part that I mentioned is where the betrayal came in. They did have a plan. They have always had a plan. Ty was aware of the plan, but he changed the plan. Now, people will say he changed the plan in hopes to give Julie what she wanted. But nonetheless, when the plan changes and you're in a relationship, you have to be able to communicate that with your partner and sit through and create a new plan together. This part when he says that he knew he didn't want to write since Cooper was born was also another indication to me that when he was upset with Julie about the agent, the feeling that he experienced was in the fact that she was pushing him to do something that he knew he did not want to do. Ty had many opportunities to say that he did not want to write. With Cooper and Sasha, it's been about 6 years since Cooper was born. Now here's the part. He made the apology. So you had no idea. I apologize. Then he immediately shifted it to what he's feeling. I feel pretty undervalued. I do a lot for our family. I'm nice. People like me. I think you have it pretty good and you're pretty immature. I won't sign the papers until we do talk because I don't want to put our kids through a divorce where you have two parents who don't talk. And I think this is the part where I really disliked because when you have these conversations, you want to stay away from criticisms. Ty did a lot of criticisms in here. Julie has also given a lot of criticisms in her discussions with her talking about what she wants and what she doesn't want. She tells Ty that she felt baby trapped by him. She's told Ty that he was a liar. Those are, in fact, criticisms. And despite the way that both of them feel about it, it's unhealthy because when you add in criticism, it creates more defensiveness. I prefer to use language like the message that this sent me when this happened, or what I heard you say is XYZ. It creates the I statement and makes it less about what you did and what was received in that moment. This helps people think more about how they're communicating with one another, the messages that they're sending, and whether or not that was intended. So at this point in time, things are left pretty open ended. Julie doesn't have much to say. We see that she's crying. We also see that Ty knows that deep down inside, Julie is not as harsh or as prickly as she may seem. Called her like she's like a little crab, hard on the outside, but soft on the inside. And I think this was like an interesting statement because he knows that Julie isn't that harsh. However, he wasn't honest with her. And also, in all of the times that Ty has presented a change, Julie has gone along with it. So even if she didn't like it, she had gone along with it and she gave Ty what he wanted. And the question for me is, I wonder at what point in time did he start to feel that Julie would no longer go along with this? Was it when he realized that the writing portion was a big deal? Or was it when he started to feel guilty about what was happening in itself? Let me know your thoughts. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode because it felt so real. This is how couples maneuver all of the time when they're experiencing this level of conflict. And again, I think both of them can really truly work on themselves and then together to get to the relationship they want if that's what they want. Now, the ball is pretty much in Julie's court, so she'll have to decide if this betrayal is big enough for her to call it quits or is she willing to work through this. I think the big thing for Julie to decide in this moment is whether or not she can trust him again and be vulnerable enough to try and find themselves in the middle of what their dreams look like now. One thing I also thought about was how when Ty presents that you have a good life, I think it's this idea of this life that I've chosen is good enough. Why is it not good enough for you? And it doesn't necessarily take into account what Julie wanted and why she came to the conclusion of what she wants. I think this is a moment for both of them to really come together and get to know one another. He fell in love with her when she was 16, but now they are adults with two children. Does he love the woman that Julie is now? Is the big question. And vice versa. Does she love the person that Ty is now? This is my commentary on Jen's bachelorette party. This felt like a lot. Now, in the comments below, let me know what your favorite parts of the episode were, and I will go ahead and check in with you all next time. Bye for now.